Today on Riffs, Beards, and Gear, we play with a couple of ribbon microphones from Royer. In the world of microphones, I would say the most popular and most well-known ribbon microphone may arguably be the Royer 121, as it sounds wonderful, which is literally every other microphone ever made. And it's also very popular on things like guitar cabs, but also things like room mics and overheads and things. But with the 121, you do have to worry about the sensitivity of the ribbon and possibly blowing the mic. Today, we are going to look at what I would consider kind of a little sibling of the 121, the R-10 ribbon microphones from Royer. Now, before we go any further, this video is sponsored by Sweetwater. Sweetwater has literally just about every microphone you could ever want or need for any application, whether it's live or in the studio. I will link down below in the description to sweetwater.com. And with that, let's get on with it, shall we? Now, the R-10 is built to handle very high SBL volume ratings. This means it can take your snares, it can take your loud bass cabs, guitar cabs, without any harm to the actual ribbon transducer itself. This is not usually the case with a lot of ribbon microphones. Ribbon microphones are inherently fragile, not so with the R-10. Now, along with high volumes, you also get a totally flat frequency response with no spiky top end or anything. These are very, very smooth sounding and very, they're weighty. They feel durable. These are also $500 a pop, which is significantly less money than a lot of ribbon microphones. Now, as the R-10 R Mono, I have two of them, and I went up to Synergy Productions up just outside of Seattle with Dragged Under drummer Kalen Anderson, and I use these in two different applications. First, I use these in an overhead drum configuration, and then I used a single R-10 in front of my Taylor Grand Pacific acoustic guitar. Now, I was very, very spoiled with Synergy Productions, as they have a vintage SSL 4000G series desk, and it sounds so good. And they also have a bevy of outboard gear, and the drum room looks and sounds wonderful. So really, it made my job miking these very, very easily. However, we are miking the Truth drum kit that Kalen tours with, and he has zillion cymbals, and we used a bunch of different microphones for the shells. However, we will go, after I let you listen to the tune, we will go into Logic and I will isolate and let you hear what the Royers are exactly doing. So without further ado, let's hear these in the context of a mix, shall we? All right, so I am in Logic. I have gone ahead and muted the guitars and the bass. Here is what the drums sound like by themselves with just the processing that I did. You can hear how warm the R-10 is with the acoustic guitar, and I will note that we also had to move the mic around a little bit because it was way, way too warm more directly in front of the sound hole. Once we moved it up to about the 12th fret and back a little bit, it opened up quite a bit just by itself. No pencil condenser needed. Now, I will note with these drums, the only sample that I used was just a little bit of a reinforcing sample with the kick drum. Everything else is au natural, believe it or not. Again, the drums sounded incredibly good in this room, and also, you know, having a 4000G SSL helps as well. So let's get to the drums. Okay, isolated drums. Now, I'm going to play you the naked overheads. I have just a little bit of processing going on. I have the SSL native channel strip going on, and then I'm also adding some saturation. That's really it. A little bit of soothe to smooth out the overheads, just a little bit. That's literally it. So I'm going to turn, well, mainly what I'm doing is rolling off some of the low end, not all of the low end, just some of the low end. Here are the totally raw overheads by themselves. They sound really good. We were processing on the way in. We had a little bit of compression going and a little bit of Pultec EQs going. In context, though, these are a very, very, I don't know, the overheads are very, very smooth, which is what I would prefer to have to add a little bit of top end versus having to fight to take away too much top end, right? So these are actually some of the better overhead mics I have ever used, because typically my problem with things like Telefunkens, you know, or Copperheads or something like that is they're just crazy bright. And these are just butter on the cymbals. They make for a really, really nice image as well. So I'm going to combine these with the rooms and let you hear what it really sounded like in the room. Okay, now let's move on to the acoustic guitar. So with the acoustic guitar, I just double tracked it. My processing is I EQ'd it a little bit. I added some saturation. I'm gonna turn all of these things off. I am gonna leave the sends for the reverb on. Actually, no, let's take that off. And here's how the raw acoustic tracks sound by themselves. They're not muddy, they're very warm, and there's not that typical, I mean, the guitar doesn't have it either, but it doesn't have that typical Taylor super toppy snappiness. This is a much more warmer acoustic guitar tone, which I'm really into. All I did is come in with a Dangerous Bax EQ, BAX EQ. Taking away some low end, I'm adding a little bit top end, a little bit more top end. Coming in with the black box for saturation. That's very subtle. And then I'm coming in with a Pro Q3 and just kind of taking out a little bit of the mid-range. A little bit of compression, and Bob's your uncle. That's literally it. These microphones are just so buttery smooth. I love them. Yeah, I don't know. There's not really much more to say. I really love the imaging on the overheads. I'm going to be using these in the future for more drum overhead applications for sure. And yeah, that is the Royer R-10s in the context of a mix. So what do we think? Honestly, these are really, really phenomenal sounding, especially for $500 a pop. They come in their own hard shell cases, and they're just so buttery smooth. Typically with ribbons, for me personally, my own experience with ribbons in the past has been that of muddiness and a little less favorable applications for the ribbons that I have tried. Now, I am not the world's foremost expert on ribbon microphones. However, these are sweet. And they're not muddy, and they're just really, really smooth. So yeah, check them out. They will definitely add some dimension and flavor to whatever you are trying to capture with your microphone setup. Huge shout out to my homie Jason Lackey and Synergy Productions for allowing me to come on in and just point a camera in everybody's face. They were a huge help for the production of this video. And thank you to our sponsor, Sweetwater, for providing me the Royer mics. I will link down below in the description. And with that, you've been wonderful. I've been Fluff. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.